Alright, there's not a ton of Lancer content out there, so let's make some Lancer content. I'm here to talk to you about the Everest. Yeah, there's no picture of the Everest because the creators of Lancer wanted the most common mech in the galaxy to sort of have multiple modular versions, and for the Everest to sort of be the mech that you imagine. So we'll just use this anytime we refer to the Everest. I'm sure that won't undercut any of the impact. Okay, what does the Everest have? Size 1, no armor, safe target 10, sensors 10, that's respectable. 10 hit points, repair capacity 5, decent. Evasion 8, not bad. Speed 4. Now, let's pause here for a moment, because if you've been sniffing around Lancer stuff, getting into forums, and now you found this video because you want to learn more about the Everest, you might have heard people talk about how the Everest is a very fast mech. Now, what does that mean? It has a speed of 4. That's not even on the high end of speeds. There are mechs that have a speed of 6, for example. You don't need to do anything special for that. They just come with 6 speed plus whatever else you put into agility, right? We'll get to why the Everest is so fast, but for now, its humble speed of 4 is all you need to worry about. Systems, its E-defense is 8. Tech attack plus 0. Most mechs have a tech attack of plus 0. SP 6 is again respectable, and its heat cap is 6, also pretty much average. It's got 3 mounts, a main mount, a flex mount, and a heavy mount. Okay, traits. Initiative. Once per scene, the Everest may take any quick action as a free action. Replaceable parts. While resting, the Everest can be repaired at a rate of 1 repair per 1 structure damage instead of 2 repairs. So that makes it easier to repair. And then it has its core system, the Hyperspec Fuel Injector. And then when you activate it, this is only once per mission. For the rest of the scene, you gain a +1 accuracy on all attacks, checks, and saves. Additionally, once per turn, you can boost as a free action. Okay, so the reason why people say that the Everest is so fast is once you activate your Hyperspec Fuel Injector, you're able to take 1 additional boost. On top of that, Initiative allows you to take an action as a quick action. And that gets around the fact that you can't take, like, for example, 2 quick actions that are the same thing, right? You can't skirmish twice, you can't boost twice, but if something is given to you as a free action, you actually can use the same thing again. So these 2 traits, like, and you might say, well, wouldn't I want to attack? And yeah, most of the time you would want to attack. But these 2 things together allow for some explosive movement from the Everest. You can have a turn in which you get all the way to the other side of the battlefield, almost regardless of how big that battlefield is. And what you would do is you would move, then boost, then overcharge and boost again, then take your free boost, and if you have Hyperspec Fuel Injector, take another free boost, right? This would allow you to turn your 4 movement into 4 times, into a lot of movement. This is why people say the Everest is so fast. So the Everest is the starting mech, right? So it's not as good as the other mechs, right? Wrong. Make sure that if you're going into Lancer, you don't fall for that idea that just because you start out with the Everest, that the Everest is not as good as the other mechs. The Everest is built to be the Ryu, the Mario, the base mech that can basically do a little bit of everything and still be okay. You can put hacking systems on the Everest. You can put heavy weaponry on the Everest. You can put weird teleporting stuff on the Everest, and mostly it'll work really well, especially because if you activate its core power, it gives a bonus to every rolled action, or pretty much every rolled action that you can have. So is the Everest bad at anything? Yes, but not for the reason you think. The thing that makes the Everest bad at certain things, it's actually how good it is. And it's mainly the fault of this guy here. That's right, it's the starting mech, and it has a heavy mount. Actually weirdly throws things off. I had a player who really wanted to be like a cool sword guy. He was looking at the Morning Cloak, and the whole deal with the Morning Cloak is that it doesn't have a heavy mount. Instead, it gets a bonus to attack under certain conditions, like a damage bonus, so that you can use main weapons that do as much damage as heavy weapons, right? If you meet the prerequisites. So this player starts out with an Everest. We say, okay, get your swords. You can put your swords in your flex and main mount. But you have this heavy mount. Why don't you load up a heavy machine gun? That player fired that heavy machine gun once and completely fell in love with it. Did not want to do anything else except fire the heavy machine gun. Weirdly, the thing that makes the Everest not a good mech is that it is too broad and it has all of the good things, right? It has that heavy mount. It has a flex mount. You have so many options that it's hard to not get pulled towards the best possible options, which most of the time is just a GMS heavy machine gun. So don't sleep on the Everest. It's a magnificent mech, and it gets done dirty a lot of the time just because it's the very first guy you get. Okay, well, let me know if you like this. I just kind of on a whim whipped this together. If you guys like this, maybe I can look at other mechs. Leave a comment. Tell me if you like this. Tell me if you care. Absolutely, if you disagree with me, leave a comment. I am definitely still learning to play Lancer. I've been running it for a year. So there's obviously lots more to learn. New stuff comes out all the time. We can definitely have a conversation here in the comments. Okay, guys. Thank you. Bye. Okay, maybe just a quick one today. So, I'm having a good time talking about Lancer and learning After Effects, but before we go any further, we have to stop here and talk about something important. We have to talk about a system that is so powerful that it's basically an asterisk to every build, where you could be like, insert this system here, and it would actually make that build better. So to understand why this system is so powerful, first we have to get into that most dreaded of terms, the action economy. So Lancer's action economy is strong, I guess. You have a lot of options, and you have plenty of ways to get additional juice out of your actions, right? There's obviously, you always have access to overcharge. The price gets steeper, but you can straight up build a mech that benefits from the progressively higher amounts of heat that you take when you overcharge. But there is one general rule when it comes to actions in Lancer and basically in all tactical games, which is that the side with the most actions is the side with the highest advantage and the side that's more likely to win. Obviously, the quality of those actions is important. You could be surprised at having your players pull a win even though they're outnumbered, and simultaneously, you'd be surprised at how much just having one additional enemy can start turning the tide against your players when you're running a combat. So yeah, that's basically action economy, right? What do you do with your actions? How many actions do you get? And how do you cheese more actions out of the system? So, if you're looking through Lancer stuff, it's easy to miss this system, which is way in the back in the third license level of the Sherman, called Asura NHP. Asura NHP is a very powerful system because it gives you an additional action. Basically, it gives you either an additional full action or 2 additional quick actions. Basically, a turn's worth of actions that you can take in addition to all the other actions that you're taking that turn. So you can see that this is actually hugely powerful. And basically, it turns this system into an asterisk in all other builds. Oh, here's my like half blaster, half hacker Tortuga asterisk, which would be faster and better if it had Asura. Like, oh, I'm here to castigate the enemies of the Godhead. I got all of these nasty systems, asterisk, which I would be able to use more often and castigate more if I had more actions, right? If I had Asura protocol. So, what I'm getting at is, as we explore Lancer, which I would like to do more of, so we'll see if I have time and energy and we're able to do it. But as we continue to explore Lancer, just know that there's always going to be an asterisk that says, and this would be made stronger with the Asura NHP, right? Now, you might say, well, there is a cap to Asura NHP. You're only allowed to use it once per scene. Sure, absolutely. And also, you need to take 3 license levels to get to it. And that's true, but 2 issues with that. The first one is that the Sherman's actually a pretty good system, and if you are just piloting a Sherman, then basically you get Asura Protocol for free. The other issue is that by 6th level, chances are you're going to have a complete build that already does everything you want that mech to do. By 6th level, you can build a really cracking hacker, right? By 6th level, you can build a really slicey slicer or a really shooty artillerist. And then you get 6 more license levels as you continue to go on in the game. So there's almost no reason not to just take 3 levels of Sherman if you're level 9. You can probably even take it early if your build uses lower license systems anyway, and get Asura earlier, right? And if you have played tactical games, then you know where this is going. Extra actions poison your mind. They pull you towards them. You know, you can drink deep and descend all you want about Horus and the Lich and like all of these like spooky paracausal things, but the thing that will rot your brain the fastest as a Lancer brewer or mech builder is that you could always be going for Asura. So personally, I very rarely include it in my builds unless for some reason it's like a Sherman heavy build, right? Like one of my favorite builds is a Death's Head with a Tachyon Lance. It's like, well, a Death's Head with a Tachyon Lance is going to have Asura, so you might as well stick it in there because it's very powerful. But generally speaking, I don't usually put it on. So yeah, that's kind of the most desirable system in Lancer. Let me know if you agree, or let me know if you don't agree. I personally think that the system is balanced, so it's fine to take. I think as we make more of these videos, the likelihood of people like chiming in and being like, you know, if you put Asura Protocol on this, it would be a lot better, is high. So I'm making this preemptively. And honestly, probably dooming myself to now people as a joke going into the comments and being like, you know, Asura Protocol, because that's how you guys talk. Okay. I will see you guys next time. And, you know, holler at me on Blue Sky or visit my Patreon. I would like to make more of these videos, but right now I have to fit them around my real world job and actually my other podcasting job. So, you know, kick in with Patreon if you can, if you think this is worthwhile. And I actually do a lot of gaming stuff over there, so you might like it. I'm just saying. Click on it. You might like it. Okay, bye. So, if you're looking around for Lancer strategy stuff, you're going to find a lot of stuff for, like, builds, for individual builds. But one thing that I think comes up a lot that not a lot of people talk about is how do you construct a party, like a squadron, that actually works well together. So, here are some tips on how to put together a balanced group. Okay, so first of all, you need like a gross little guy, like an absolutely objectionable little man. And this little man can be a girl too, or a non-binary person, but this is gonna be like, ooh, like a nasty little dude. And then you take that guy and you put him in a Caliban, and that's basically your front line. He probably has a code name like Pizza, and he's going to be the one who's going to be up front. Next up, you want the twins. So the twins are Chip and Romulus. You know, because they have a twin concept, but they didn't call each other ahead of time. Chip's probably like some support / hacker, and he feeds information and bonuses to Romulus, who then does some amount of blasting from the back. So this is your back line. So in the middle, you have your hero. This person knows Lancer. They know what the enemies can do. They've probably run games of Lancer before, and they are basically there to try to make the team gel. Opposite of that character, you have the anti-hero. This is the player that was the hero in the last game, but they got really tired of Pizza's antics and they don't want to deal with it. And so now they're playing like a very broody version of the hero's character. But of course, when the gauntlet is thrown down, the anti-hero is 100% ready to go. These two didn't call each other ahead of time, didn't have a group concept, but they probably still ended up with matching call signs like him and Dirge. Now, these guys' job is to run back and forth like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to either help Pizza if he gets overwhelmed, or help the twins if like enemies spawn in the back and start accosting them. These two guys are voted most likely to stick with the objective while Pizza's off in the corner trying to solo a bastion. So this is if you have 5 players. If you have 6 players, you can actually get into some of the advanced archetypes, like Mrs. Bus, Frank and the Jeffy, and Dr. Portal Time. And man, if you have 7 players, you could even actually do Pancake and the Codfish, which would be amazing. Like, what game wouldn't go smoothly when you have those two working for you? Yeah, so yeah, that's my very useful advice. I hope you guys liked it. Like and subscribe, I guess. Okay, thanks, bye. Maybe once a month in all of the Lancer channels that I'm plugged into on social media, Discord and stuff, somebody pops up and they're like, hey, I'm a new Lancer game master. Love the game, love the lore, love all this stuff. I'm running a game for my players, but it's so complicated and the turns take so long. It's like too complex. You guys have any tips as to how to reduce the complexity and make the turns go faster? And sure enough, some people will chime in with like some great advice, like make sure that everybody knows what they're going to do, make sure that everybody thinks ahead of time about what they do, make sure that everybody's like paying attention to the turn before so that they're not like on their phone and then turn around to see a completely different thing and they're like, oh, well that changes what I was going to do, and now they have to sit there and figure it out, right? All of that is good advice. But what I like to do, and what I think a lot of other people end up doing, is you do a little forensic anthropology in there, and you say, tell me more about your game. So they start talking about their game, and they're like, yeah, we're doing this, it's like this, and like the bad guy's like Harrison Armory or whatever, blah, 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 and eventually it comes out that they started at license level 2. That is the #1 mistake that new game masters make, is starting their game at a level higher than license level 0. Reason #1 to start at license level 0, complexity. If you start at license level 2, you're going to be dealing with all the GMS stuff, 2 license levels, a new chassis with all that that entails, including things like armor and its like core power, but also you're going to have 5 talents at that point. 5 talents that you're going to have to know what they do, and talents are actually some of the more complex aspects of Lancer, because they actually are the core of a lot of builds, right? More so than the systems and the chassis. Talents are sort of where you hook your build onto, instead of walking into a game with only the GMS stuff to worry about and only 3 talents to worry about. You are now really multiplying that complexity significantly. You start at license level 2, are your turns taking too long? This is why. This is why that stuff is taking so long. It's because you have players that already have like 3 levels of Brawler and are trying to figure out how brawling dice works. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much for your very first session of your very first game of Lancer. And I know what you're saying.
I can handle it, right? And maybe you can, and maybe your group can. Maybe your group has like you handed them the book and they like voraciously devoured all of the rules and all of the stats, and they're a bunch of like super duper gamers that are really good at mechanics, and that's fine. But you should still start at license level 0. And this is the second reason why. And probably the most important reason, I guess 1 is actually the most important reason, because that causes games to fall apart. Like that causes people to be like, I don't actually want to play this game, it's too complex. So okay, 1 is the one is the number 1 reason. This is the number 2 reason. Reason 2. So reason 2 is, so when you play role-playing games, right? Something like, let's just make it easy, say something like D&D. You're playing a ranger, your friend's playing a wizard. Chances are, as you're playing, you're going to discover things both about the system and about the ranger. And the things that you discover about the system, when you tell them to other players, it might or might not apply to their characters. Because chances are you care about the rangery parts of the system. Then that knowledge is not like disseminated through the group, right? And then later on, someone else either does it wrong and you have to correct them, or rediscovers it where they didn't have to. They didn't have to spend the brain power because you already discovered it. And you told them about it, but they didn't care at the time. In Lancer, the important thing is, because everybody is going in and playing very similar characters to begin with, even though they do set themselves apart, those similarities are going to make it so that you collectively learn the system a little bit better. You don't have to worry about weird systems. You don't have to worry about teleports. Nobody can teleport right off the bat. You don't have to worry about like dice counters, like there are like things later on that have you like count on a die how things happen. You do not need to worry about any of that. All you have to worry about early on is learning the game, and if you're the game master, making sure that your players learn the game, and if you're a player, helping the other players learn the game. Most of the discoveries that you're going to make at license level 0 and 1 are going to be about the system, and system discoveries help everyone. Whereas if you start out at license level 2, a lot of the discoveries you're going to be making, you're going to be very focused on what your mech can do. And then you're going to skip over a lot of those system discoveries, which are then going to cause gaps in your knowledge. And I know that you said that you're like super good at this or whatever, but you can't remember everything about a game at all times if you don't play it, right? It's not until you play it that you realize how important certain things are, you realize how important certain things aren't, that you thought were important. This isn't D&D, right? In a lot of D&D systems, your character doesn't get good until level 3 because they have to account for multiclassing. In Lancer, multiclassing works right off the bat, right? You can take license levels from any mech, and generally speaking, it's all going to work pretty well. So there's no reason to have dead levels. People think of level 1 and 2 and 3 in Dungeons & Dragons, and probably in the original Pathfinder. Not so much in Pathfinder 2, I think they kind of fixed that. But people think about those first, second, third levels as like dead levels. Levels where your character is like extremely physically vulnerable to dying, and also don't have any of the things that make them good at what they're supposed to be good at. Like, you're a ranger that's not good at tracking, you're a wizard that has like 2 spells. Those early levels are almost painful to play. That's not true in Lancer. In Lancer, you can jump in and you can run an encounter right out of the book at first level, and characters are survivable, but not overpowered. I'm just saying, try it out. Your players don't know, right? If your players are like most of the players I know, if you want to run Lancer, you're like, hey, I'm going to run Lancer, you want to play? And they're like, sure. And they like skim the book and they don't know any of the rules to begin with or whatever. Your players don't know any better. They don't know. So just run them at license level 0. That's my fervent plea to you. New game masters, do not start above license level 0. Give your game the benefit of starting at low level. This one was a little bit different one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my Patreon. I've been posting videos early there. Last video posted almost a whole week early. So patrons were able to see that. Thanks so much for watching. I'm having a good time making these, and I'll catch you later. Bye. Okay, so slightly new setup here. Also, the video that's done the best so far has been the Everest, so I thought I'd do another mech review. But I don't know which one to do. I haven't had a lot of time to prepare, so I figured I got the book in my phone. So I will just check what the last mech I looked at was, because it's been like months since I've opened the book on my phone. The Gorgon? Well, I don't know much about the Gorgon, but we'll learn together. Roll the intro. Alright, let's get into the stats. Size 2, big boy. Armor 0, which is surprising for a defender. Save target 12, that's good. Sensors 8, that's not terrible. HP 12, that's good. Maybe that makes up for the armor a little bit. Repair cap 3, that's kind of low. E-defense 12, that's good. Tech attack plus 1, that's good. SP 6 is okay. Evasion 8, Speed 4, that's average. Heat cap 5, it's not bad. Alright, traits. Metastatic paralysis. When an attack roll against the Gorgon lands on 1 or 2, it automatically misses, and the target becomes stunned until the end of their next turn. Okay, gaze. The Gorgon can take 2 reactions per turn instead of 1. Okay. Guardian. Allied characters may use the Gorgon for hard cover. Okay, mount. It's got a flex mount, a main mount, and... Wait a minute. Wait, what? 2 per turn? I thought you only got 1 reaction per round. Hang on. No, I guess you get a 1 reaction per turn. Why did I think it was once per round? Hang on. Oh, okay. Overwatch is once per round. What about Brace? Oh, okay. So Overwatch and Brace are the 2 reactions that you get in the game, and I guess those are each only once per turn, and also Brace locks you out of other reactions. Well, okay, alright, 1 reaction per turn, and I guess the Gorgon gets 2 reactions per turn. Does it have systems that mess with that? Oh, shh. So yes, if you'll excuse the theatrics, I am somewhat familiar with the Gorgon, and if you want to learn the ins and outs of Lancer's rules, the Gorgon's gonna teach you. Mostly by forcing you to ask questions like, can I use Overwatch and a Gorgon system reaction on the same turn? Can I take 2 reactions to the same trigger? Can I use the same reaction twice against the same trigger? So yeah, in Lancer, most mechs play by the rules. Other mechs sort of add rules. The success of that mech is sort of based on how much they get the enemy or their fellow players to sort of play their little minigame. The Gorgon and very few other mechs make you feel like you're deliberately exploiting the rules. Like, I'm sorry, Game Master. Were you hoping to have a fight where enemies move towards the group and shoot at them? Allow me to extrude Basilisk. So yeah, if you're a player looking at the Gorgon is tough to play and it's tough to learn. But also it kind of forces everyone else to learn, so I hope you have strong relationships within your playgroup. I'm not saying the Gorgon is bad or that it's overpowered. I'm saying the Gorgon is rude. Like, you're the one who chose to run this stupid game, so if you can't hang with the rules, then... It definitely speaks to Lancer's design that there's a mech like this in the core book. If the Gorgon didn't exist and a homebrewer made the Gorgon and showed it to the community, I mean, would you allow this? So yeah, in summation, the Gorgon is a great mech. It's fierce and transgressive in a way that few mechs are, especially mechanically. So if you're a GM and you want to learn the game, ask your strongest player to run a Gorgon. You're gonna learn. So yeah, at the beginning of this, I wanted to simulate what it's like to sort of encounter the Gorgon for the first time. Not in character, I'm sure that would be terrifying, but as a player to start to try and figure out the Gorgon, right? So I would like to explain that a lot of the traits that maybe don't make a lot of sense at first glance are that way because the only way to really stop the Gorgon from doing what it's doing is to like hit it with a very specific conditions or to kill it. So it's meaty, but it doesn't have a lot of defenses like low evasion, no armor. Like the Gorgon wants the Gorgon wants to entice the game master to hit it. So that's why its stats are the way they are. I hope you guys liked it. Patreon, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Rock and roll. Okay, bye.